Dynamite starts off with Will Ospreay. He's going to his car, going to his truck or whatever, and he noticed that his tires are slashed by MJF, and he ends up needing to get into another car in order to end up getting to the arena, and he ends up getting to another car to drive to the arena. Then we get to MJF. He cuts a promo. He mentions how Will Ospreay couldn't hit the Tiger Driver because he was too much of a coward to hit it, and that he ends up mentioning Swerve, and he ends up mentioning that he hasn't forgotten about his AEW championship and that he will eventually come for that, and Swerve better hope that he doesn't come for him soon. Then he mentions about having the spotlight on him, how that when he has the spotlight on him, it shines very bright like a diamond ring, mentioning, his own diamond ring. Then he ends up saying that Will Ospreay wasn't that hard of an opponent. It was one of his easiest victories ever, and that it was a very quick match, which is very funny because that match almost was an hour. Then he says that most people would just say that Will Ospreay should just give up, hang up the boots, and just retire. But he says he think Will Ospreay should take a long walk on a short pier. But your grandma has died recently, which I didn't expect him to really go that far. I know MJF as a heel, kind of push the boundaries a bit, but I didn't think he was going to bring up dead relatives this early. Then he ends up saying that he starts mentioning the international title and mentions how it doesn't represent who he is and that it's a worthless title and that it's a title full of guys who just put their lives on the line, constantly trying to prove to the fans how good they are and trying to please the fans. He says that he doesn't need to do that and that the international title is worthless, basically. It's worthless and that it needs a true American person to represent a true champion and what America truly represents. And he says that he is the perfect American to represent what a true champion should show for America. He goes on and on about, America and being American and all that. Then he ends up revealing a new championship. He ends up throwing the international championship into a trash, reveals a newer championship, and he calls it the American Championship. And I actually like the design. A lot. I think it's a dope design. He ends up revealing the championship, and then he ends up ending the promo. And then as he ends the promo, he ends up popping confetti all over, the arena, red and blue colors, of course, American colors. And then he ends up getting the United States flag to randomly just drop like in like a banner, but instead of the stars, he has his face planted as all 50 stars, as all stars are on the USA flag. I thought that was really dope. I thought that was really creative. I thought that was really unique. Then he has this music playing in the background as well, like this American like theme music, of course. But then Will Ospreay, of course, makes it to the arena. He ends up trying to attack MJF, but he can't get his hands on him. MJF gets on the microphone and basically ends up saying, look, I talked to Tony Khan, and the match is official. I got my rematch at All In, so it's going to be MJF versus Will Ospreay at All In for technically the international title, but by MJF words, the American Championship, which I'm very interested to see how that plays out. I can't wait for that match. That match should be an absolute banger. Next, get a quick segment with the Elite. The referee is about to flip the coin to see who gets the advantage in the match, but the Young Bucks ends up telling him that they have their own personal coin, that one side is Team Elite, one side is Team AEW. They end up flipping it. The Elite end up getting their side of the coin, but he ended up showing it to the camera, ends up showing that both sides of the coin are the same and that either way, it was going to be the Elite getting the advantage in the match. So the Elite end up getting the advantage in the Blood and Guts match in the main event. Next, we get Chris Jericho versus Suzuki. I think that's how you pronounce his name. And oh my God, this match, man. This match, oh my God. I hated this. I hate this match so much. And this match, man, I am lost for words for how bad I think this match is. This match was just a chop fest for 90% of it. And I like when wrestlers do chops, but it depends on how you do it. This match was, the first 10 minutes of this match was just them going back and forth, having a chop fest. They was basically having a slapping contest. They was basically doing that thing where wrestlers let the opponent hit them over and over again. That stuff works, but not for 10 minutes. They did this for 10 minutes. The only cool thing was Chris Jericho bleeding because of the chops, but even then, This match made me. This is one of the worst matches I have seen in a while. I look. The crowd was into it, but me, no. This match was bad. I don't care what. This match was bad, and this match was so bad that I've been trying to defend Chris Jericho because Chris Jericho is one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. But yeah, it's time to end this learning tree. I'm over it. This was the last straw. I'm over it. It needs to end. I love Chris Jericho, and the gimmick has potential, but I'm over it. Revert him. He can stay heel. Keep him heel, but revert his gimmick, please. Revert this gimmick. Revert Big Bill to a different character because the character he has sucks. Revert Brian Keith. You can keep them all heels, but just revert their character because this is bad. I'm over it. Hurry up and put the title on whoever in that faction of Samoa Joe, Hook, or Shibata. I don't care who wins it at this point. Just I'm over it. No, this was the last straw for me. But yeah, Chris Jericho ends up hitting him with a low blow. The Judas Effect picks up the victory, and then Shibata, then afterwards, Shizuka, I think, ends up hitting a power driver on Chris Jericho after the match. Brian and Big Bill ends up attacking Suzuka or Suzuki. I don't know how to pronounce. It's one of those two. Ends up attacking him. Then Shibata makes the save, basically. Yeah, I'm over this. I'm over this. I'm over the learning tree. I'm over this. This is terrible. I'm just over it. This was the last straw. But please hurry up and get this title off of him, please. Next, we'll get Chris Statlander. Stokely approaches Willow Nightingale, but that was just to extract Willow so Chris can attack her. Chris ended up doing like a F5 to Willow on some crates. Basically, and then Stokely ends up saying that, look, we want you to put your CMLL women's title on the line in an eliminator match next week on Dynamite. Most likely she's going to accept and put the title on the line. Eventually, Chris Statlander probably will be going to be in that match. Very interested to see how that plays out because I don't think the champion has to get pinned in that type of match either. So, yeah, so I don't think the champion has to get pinned. So, interested to see how that plays out, but I highly doubt Willow lose. Now we get Britt Baker versus Hikaru Shida. This match got confirmed on Saturday. Hikaru Shida faced Sky Blue in the match, but Sky Blue got injured. And then in a backstage segment, Hikaru basically said that she wanted an opponent that she wanted to face. She wanted like an actual good fight, and she called out Britt Baker. So this is why this match happens. Britt Baker ends up winning. She wins by using the lockjaw. After the match, though, Mercedes Moné comes out. She comes out. She basically ends up constantly declining, Britt Baker her chance at All In to fight Mercedes. Then out of nowhere, Camille attacks Britt Baker. It looks like Camille will be the new personal bodyguard of Mercedes Moné. Now, if I'm not mistaken, you guys let me know in the comment section. Is Camille the wrestler that WWE wanted to sign and wanted her in NXT, but she thought that she was too good for NXT? So AEW signed her, and then they just signed her and didn't use her for months. You guys let me know if this is the same woman. I don't know, and I personally don't care that much personally, but you guys let me know if that's the same woman, because I think it is, but I'm not sure. Now we get Mariah May. She comes out. She ends up having a match, but I'm not speaking of the match because it was against a nobody. After the match, Toni Storm music hits. She's shocked. She's very shocked, but then she ends up playing it off and starts laughing because Toni Storm don't come out. Then you see Toni Storm get to the ring. She had a disguise on, and she is just staring down Mariah May with this vicious look, staring her down. Mariah May finally turns around, and then they brawl. They brawl, and then security has to break them up. They're going back and forth. Toni Storm ended up getting a microphone, ended up saying that she's going to eventually try to end her. This was great. This is really good. I love this. This is really good. Because this is the blood feud. This is the type of intensity that you need, and I can't wait for their all-in match. I can't wait for the promos leading up to this match, because this is really good. Now we get to the main event. Blood and guts, okay? I'm going to skip the first, 10 minutes of this match, maybe even 15, because to me, personally, this match did not really get good until Anthony Bowens got in the match. So once Anthony Bowens gets in the match, I'm going to go over some of the key spots in here. It gets to one spot where Mark Briscoe ended up doing a top rope cutter on Nick Jackson. Nick Jackson tried to do like a dive over the ropes. And then Mark Briscoe ended up jumping in between Nick and ended up doing a top rope cutter, which I thought was sick. Then then Darby Allin ended up getting Matt Jackson. Yeah, Matt Jackson. He ends up getting his skateboard that has thumbtacks on it. and ends up basically riding the skateboard off the top rope and ends up stomping the skateboard with the thumbtacks on Matt Jackson's arm, which I thought that was very sick. Then you get Anthony Bowens. He ends up getting some scissors, ends up smashing the scissors, kind of like what Mariah May did to Toni Storm, getting the scissors and constantly smashing them on Jack Perry's head, and then he ends up choking him with the scissors. Then we end up getting the Young Bucks. They end up getting the upper hand eventually. Because they end up having more members than Team AEW with the advantage that they end up getting. They ended up doing a couple body slams to Anthony Bowens on this like barbed wire, like this cardboard with barbed wire on it. Then you get then we get this sequence where Nick Jackson's on the top rope, and they end up putting the cardboard with the barbed wire on the bot on Anthony Bowens is laying on it, and he has it on top of him as well. And Nick Jackson ends up doing a swanton bomb onto the barbed wire cardboard onto Anthony Bowens. Then we get a sequence where Max Caster gets in. He gets his hot momentum, but then he ends up getting overwhelmed. Then we get the Young Bucks and the Elite ended up getting thumbtacks. They get a bunch of thumbtacks. They shove the thumbtacks in Max Caster's mouth. Then the Young Bucks does a super kick to Max Caster with the thumbtacks in his mouth, which I thought was sick, but I'm also very concerned and worried. Now, I'm sure they did this in a safe way. Maybe he didn't have all. It looked like they shoved a lot in there, but maybe he spit a bunch of them out because they did pan the camera a little bit towards the young Bucks when they start pumping their shoes. So maybe he spit out a bunch of those, thumb checks. But that's still very dangerous. But it was still sick, but a little dangerous. Then we get Hangman, right? Hangman is supposed to come out, but his music hits, but he doesn't come out. He doesn't come out at all. They end up fighting for a bit, and then Swerve music hits. Swerve music hits, he comes out. As he's coming down the entrance ramp, you see Hangman. Of course, Hangman, the main thing he just wanted was to fight Swerve. He just wanted to fight Swerve. He didn't care about this match. He just wanted to fight Swerve. Hangman comes out, attacks Swerve during his entrance, and he ends up handcuffing Swerve Strickland and constantly attack him. Now, he's not getting in the ring at all. He's not getting in the ring. He doesn't care about this match. He is strictly just there for Swerve. Matt Jackson is upset. He's like, bro, look, we made a deal. What are you doing? We made a deal. And then Hangman is just ignoring him. He's not even paying attention. Matt Jackson ends up saying that, look, if you don't get in this ring, you're fired. You're fired. Hangman heard that and ends up getting in the ring and start cooperating. Then, with the Elite having the advantage since it's a 5-on-4, they basically end up dominating. But then they dominate for a good bit. But then Billy Gunn and Jeff Jarrett comes out. They end up helping Swerve. They end up getting a key or some type of pick or whatever to get Swerve out of the handcuffs. And Prince Nana ended up bringing some pliers to end up cutting the cage because the cage was locked. So they end up ripping like a hole in the cage, in the spot of the cage to get Swerve in. Swerve gets in. Of course, he goes on a hot streak. He ends up getting the momentum. Then he takes out all the Elite on the ground. He takes them all out. And now it's just Swerve and Hangman. They have a little face off, and they end up brawling. They end up going back and forth. But Swerve ended up getting the upper hand if I'm not mistaken. But then the Elite, then later in the match, the Elite are surrounded Swerve. They surround Swerve and they all have staplers. Then they all just staple Swerve. They're all each are stapling Swerve. After they all staple Swerve, Swerve starts laughing. He starts laughing like it's nothing. And then he ends up taking them all out. Takes them all out and ends up stapling them all too as well. He ends up stapling Hangman too in the cheek as well, which I thought was a cool spot. Because I think Hangman did that to Swerve in their match at Wrestle Dream, if I'm not mistaken, their death match. That may have been a different PLE, but I think he did the same thing as well. Then we get to the outside. This is towards the end of the match, because towards the end of the match, Hangman and Swerve weren't in the match anymore. They was all the way towards like the backstage area. This happened when on my stream it was doing picture in picture. So, and I don't typically watch when it's in picture in picture. But we get towards the end of the match, towards the ending spots. It's Bowens and Nick Jackson. They're on the outside of the cage, and they're like climbing on top of the cage, and there's these tables that are stacked on top of another table. They're going back and forth fighting, but Anthony Bowens ends up losing the battle, and he ends up falling all the way off the cage onto the through the tables that were set up. Then we got a cool spot where I think it was Jack Perry. I think it was Jack Perry, if I'm not mistaken. He gets put on a table. Darby Allin climbs, like they're inside the cage. He climbs through the cage, and then he starts like swinging it, like you know, like them little monkey bars like on the playground. Yeah, he starts doing that through the cage. I don't know what it's called, like the rails of the cage. I don't know what it's called, but he basically ends up doing a coffin drop from the cage, which was crazy. Like I thought that was very sick. He did a coffin drop through on inside the cage, on the Jack Perry onto a table. Then they end up Mark Briscoe ends up handcuffing Matt Jackson. He ends up handcuffing Jack Perry to the cage. He ends up getting handcuffs, and then they end up basically torturing Jack Perry, wanting him to quit. Then Jack Perry constantly he's refused to quit. Then Darby Allin, being Darby Allin, of course, gets gasoline and a lighter, pours the gasoline on Jack Perry, and basically threatens to light him on fire if he doesn't quit. And he ends up saying that he wants a TNT championship match as well. Jack Perry is refusing to say I quit, but Matt Jackson ends up giving in. He ends up saying that, look, this has gone too far. You want the TNT championship match, you got it, and we quit. And that's how they end up picking up the victory. Team AEW wins. This was a really good match. I enjoyed this match. I enjoyed this blood and guts match. This was a really solid match. I enjoyed this episode of Dynamite. I thought it was a solid episode. Nothing too special, but I thought it was a solid episode. You guys let me know what you guys thought of this blood and guts. You guys let me know your opinions down below. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. But yeah, that's it.